there was a Russian thing. It's a Russian copy, basically, of The Wizard of Oz, called Der Zauberer der Smaragdenstadt, The Wizard of the Emerald City. I don't know if they paid copyright for that, but what they did is they made sequels to that, and they were really good. So they took the characters, the Scarecrow and the iron the woodcutter, the iron woodcutter and stuff, and the lion, and they made more stories with them and with this magical realm in which they lived, and that was really cool. So they had like 6 books altogether, and I was really into those. And then a bit later, when I got into my teens, there was like uncanny stuff. So I really liked scary stories, gothic horror stories, like the usual stuff, Frankenstein, Dracula, but also I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft. You could say that this is my sort of favorite author in the world, because there's something about how alienated his characters often seem to the world around them, and how strange the world around them seems to them, and how dangerously that there's always forces from the outside, from space or whatever, trying to sort of destroy and tear to shreds this little sort of conscious safety that we have. And it always sort of related to me very much, this feeling of just being on the verge of being overwhelmed by something that is out of our conscious field of vision or something. And I think, of course, this is what horror fiction is all about anyway, but it just sort of got to me on a very personal level. And of course, because I think it speaks about the unconscious, about things you could always argue that if you were a psychotherapist, that a shrink, that Lovecraft maybe was just had a deep allergy to seafood or something, which is why he would create or make up, or even of female genitals, for that matter, a bit. And that's why he was obsessed with creating these monsters, these hideous creatures that always were sort of seafoodish or vagina-ish, or so there's and I don't know, I really like that. I like this streak that goes through horror fiction in general, of sort of externalizing internal issues, sort of creating a monster like an emblem on which to project these issues, so that you can face them in some way. I like that. I tend to be a bit more consciously involved with these effects and the effects of these metaphors, because I'm very curious about them, because I feel that they have a great impact on me, these sorts of stories, these sorts of and so I'm curious. I'm naturally curious. I'm like a detective as well. So, and always also I think the characters in my films often have those sort of type as well, that they are a detective of the sort of these hidden places and unconscious. So in a way, I am like an analyst of my fascination with these things as well. So although sometimes I wish I would not, because for example, I don't know if H.P. Lovecraft was totally aware of many of the sort of phobias and fears that run through his work, and still his work is very strong and very particular. So sometimes I also wish that I could go about it as as little analytical as possible. But then again, I think no one knows him or herself quite as well as they think they do. So even if I sort of try to analyze myself and my urge and motivation to go into certain places, I can always be sure that I will deny some really important things, and that these things then will definitely show in my work. And so I think many images that are recurring, which I only realize after a while seeing that it sort of seems like I have a quite limited reservoir of or there is a reservoir of situations or items, so to speak, that will make resurface time and again. And I like that. I find that interesting, that I wasn't really aware of that, and that there seems to be something connected to them, which then only makes me explore further.